Despite 26.05 being a smaller patch, a lot of the changes that were issued ended up being quite impactful, so we've got a bunch of champs on the rise, and we'll be breaking everything down and providing you guys with a complete update to the solo queue tier list for every single role. And remember, our tier lists will always show you the most broken champions in the meta, but knowing what's broken doesn't mean you know how to abuse it, which is exactly why countless players love our live challenger commentaries. Every single week, our challenger experts upload full live games, walking you through exactly how to carry in your own ranked games. From how to win trades in lane, to making the right macro calls mid-game, and how to dominate team fights, breaking down every key decision they make in real time to make sure you know exactly how to play every stage of the game step by step on your chosen champion. And if you still have questions, our coaches are, let's just say, compelled to answer them. And that's only the start, as we've updated our Season 16 Essentials courses for every role, breaking down how to play every stage of the game into easy-to-digest chapters, giving you all the tips, tricks, and strategies you need to climb this season. Guaranteed! If you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service, then you get every penny back. So what's there to lose? Get your exclusive one-time discount by clicking the link in the pinned comment or description below and start your climb today. So the biggest winner coming out of the top lane in 26.5 has been Garen. The Garen buffs didn't really make a whole lot of sense in the first place because he wasn't in a terrible spot in 26.4. With the buff going through, they have propelled Garen into being an upper percentile top lane champ with his win rate jumping over 1%. Like we said, Garen wasn't really even struggling in recent patches though, so even though a 1% boost isn't massive, it's significant for a champ who was already in a good spot. It's kind of similar to the Ahri buffs we saw a few patches ago. Ahri was completely fine before the buffs, and by no means was her W buff massive, but it was enough to turn her into the most played mid laner in the game. We're seeing a similar trajectory with Garen in 26.5 to where his play rate is up massive, and he's holding a top 10 win rate for the role, so we're going to be giving Garen an extra push up the tier list from S into OP. So for the top lane tier list in 26.5, it's going to be looking almost identical to how we had it for pre-patch, with the exception of Garen joining the OP tier. Singed, Ornn, and Garen will now lock down the OP tier spots. Singed has been great for a while for solo queue, even dating back to last season, but with the new role quest for Season 16, being able to take Flash with Ghost and then still have access to teleport in the mid game is super nice, while Singed is one of the best Protoplasm Harness users in the game, so he's absolutely loved that item addition. Ornn just scales so well with levels, so he thrives with the quest providing him bonus experience, and then Garen is just slightly overbuffed for this patch, so he's one of the easiest champs in the top lane that you can succeed with right now. Jungle was the role that saw the most amount of impactful changes for 26.5, and one champ on the rise in a big way is Nocturne. So Noct got 2 buffs this patch, one to his Q movement speed and one to his passive cooldown. The buffs combined have resulted in around a 2% boost in win rate for Nocturne, which is definitely a bit more than what we were expecting. These changes alone have turned Nocturne into a top tier jungle pick, as he's moved past a ton of junglers in priority. Nocturne is always a really solid jungler for the lower elos, but after these buffs he's now a top 5 pick, so if you're in plat or below right now, then we'd highly consider picking up Noct for 26.5. With how the buffs landed, Nocturne is due for an additional move up the tier list, as we'll be bumping him from A into S tier. A jungler who has seen a boost in power for this patch due to an indirect change, and one of the better S tier junglers, is Graves. We noted in the pre-patch tier list to watch out for Hubris Rush on Graves for 26.5, and with the patch now on live servers for a few days, we can see from the data that Hubris is now Graves' best rush item by quite a wide margin. Hubris into the Collector and Lord Doms is the core build you'll want to try for this patch, as the cost of Hubris going down by 200 is such a great buff, since it's an item you want as quick as possible due to the snowball mechanic it has with its passive. Graves was even just directly buffed back in 26.4, so 2 patches in a row the champ has seen changes that have made him stronger. He's not quite on that OP tier level, as we think that there are 2 other junglers slightly above him, but Graves is now a top 10 jungler for this patch for sure. Movement speed changes always seem to fly under the radar, and even after we told you guys not to underestimate the Kha'Zix's movement speed nerf for 26.5, it looks like we even ended up underestimating it. We were expecting around a 2% loss in win rate at the high end for Kha'Zix due to his nerfs this patch, but they've hit him even harsher and have led to a 3% drop. So from being one of the elite junglers in 26.4 to now a very average solo queue pick. What's crazy is that even after the nerfs, Kha'Zix still has a play rate up around 9%, so most players definitely didn't expect these nerfs to hit him that bad. One of the weaker junglers now without question though, so we're going to be dropping Ka further down the tier list and into B for 26.5. So with Kha'Zix priority on the downfall, an assassin jungler who has overtaken him in strength for 26.5 is Blue Kayn, as he's back in a great spot thanks to the Hubris buff. Hubris as a rush item on Kayn is now winning significantly more than Voltaic Cyclosword, so the item buffs alone have turned Kayn into a top tier pick. Standard build revolves around a Hubris Rush into Opportunity second, and either Cyrilda's Grudge or Edge of Night third. So for the first time in a long time, we are going to be moving Blue Kayn up into the jungle S tier. So for the jungle tier list in 26.5, we're going to be moving Shen up into the OP tier to join Briar. Shen has seen a huge push into meta over the past patch, mainly due in part to the challenger Shen main Xpedu popularizing the pick. We were a bit worried that Shen's performance could have been tied to the fact that it was only Shen mains who were playing him, but now that his play rate is up above 3% for 26.5, it's clear it's not the case and he's a legitimately powerful pick. You get to rush Protoplasm Harness on your Shen jungle for a very cheap health item, which Shen absolutely loves considering 3 of his abilities scale off bonus health. You also take Guardian for the Keystone Rune so that your skirmish is amplified. Whenever you're using your R to gank at level 6, the shield from R combined with the Guardian shield when you arrive makes it so difficult for the enemies to take down your teammates, and you can bait the enemy team into overcommitting so easily. We've already noted how both Kayn and Graves are now top tier picks due to the Hubris buffs, but Talon is another who's thriving with the item for this patch. Talon players running Hubris Rush are winning 53% of the time as opposed to Ghostblade users who are at 47%, so there's a massive disconnect in rush item strength right now on Talon. Ghostblade is still most popular though, so that's dragging Talon's overall win rate down. However, we think that if you're rushing Hubris, he's a top tier champ, so we're moving him into S tier. With Nocturne back in the S tier for jungle, the biggest cheat code for you to find success in him immediately is by improving your clear speed. Nock is a powerful farmer who wants his level 6 as quick as possible, but the average player loses so much time towards hitting level 6 because of their suboptimal clear speeds. It's exactly why we enlist the help of world record holding junglers to teach you the quickest, most cutting edge clears and routes before they ever go viral. Every walkthrough contains detailed step-by-step breakdowns, including must-know tricks, the exact damage thresholds you need to leash camps together, and all of the small details you need to have serious time off your jungle clears. So check them out today using the special one-time discount code in the description or pinned comment below. For mid lane in 26.5, all the changes that were issued have played out to expectations, so there's no major shifts on the tier list, with Ahri remaining the standalone most OP mid laner. The one change we will be making is moving Orianna down one tier, going from B into C. Orianna has just been hit so hard over these past few patches, first with the phase rush nerfs and now with the direct nerf, and she wasn't even a top performing solo queue champ before those changes either, so she's really fallen in strength as a solo queue pick. Of course, this is all due to pro play because Orianna's relative power in a more coordinated environment is so much better than in solo queue, which makes her really hard for Riot to balance for both solo queue and pro play. The Mel buffs actually turned out somewhat impactful, and she's knocking on the door of A tier now. We still think she's just a hair below that A tier threshold though, so we're gonna keep her placed in B, but if you're a Mel player, then she's actually worth considering picking up again due to the buffs from this patch. With the Azir nerf going through, the champion is quite literally barely holding on to a 40% win rate. It's actually just kind of sad at this point because solo queue Azir players have always had to suffer, but the fact he's now sitting at a 42% win rate is just an unprecedented level of trash. The average player could honestly pick Yuumi mid lane and likely win more games than if they were on Azir right now. He's just that bad of a pick. Heading down to the bot lane now, the one ADC who has seen a significant boost in strength for 26.5 due to item synergies is Draven. So Draven has a couple of really underrated builds going around right now that are giving him a lot of added power. First, we've got Hubris, which was just buffed for this patch and is slotting in perfectly as Draven's rush item. And then second, there's Hex Optic C44 that is working incredibly well as a second purchase on Draven in place of the Collector. The Collector is just so overrated now, especially on Draven because he doesn't even rush it. The Collector makes sense on a few ADCs as a rush item, but it's so much worse as a second purchase because lethality as a stat just becomes weaker and weaker the longer games last, with everyone's base armors going up with each level. So there are two builds you'll want to try on Draven for this patch. You can rush Hubris into Hex Optic second and Infinity Edge third if you want a max DPS setup. If you value more survivability, then rushing Bloodthirster is still a good option into Hex Optic second and Infinity Edge third. As a result of Draven becoming indirectly stronger with all the item buffs in recent patches, we're going to be moving him from A into S tier. So looking at the ADC tier list for 26.5, we've got Jinx, Xayah, and Misfortune locking down the OP tier spots. Xayah is still being slept on quite a bit after her recent buffs, with her play rate down around 5%, so definitely an ADC who should be getting more attention right now. If the enemy team locks a heavy dive comp, then picking Xayah has so much value now after her buffs. Aphelios is going to get a minor push up the tier list for mid-patch, as he's better than a C tier pick as long as you're building him correctly. The majority of Aphelios players continue to rush the suboptimal Collector on him, and those who do are handicapping themselves for no reason, winning 4% less than going Hex Optics or Stormrazor. The main draw to building the Collector over Stormrazor has always been the fact that it has the smoother build path since you can stack longswords, but Hex Optics literally allows you to stack longswords as well, so there's no reason to be building the Collector Spectre on Aphelios when Hex Optics exists. The only noteworthy change to the support role in 25.6 were the buffs to Locket, and the changes have turned out pretty underwhelming, so there have been no significant meta shifts as a result. Nami and Sona will continue to lock down the OP tier spots for support, as they are the most consistently impactful supports for solo queue right now. The nerf to Nico ended up landing as expected, with the champ losing around 1% win rate, so not a killing blow, but our decision to move her down into the B tier is proving to be the correct call. Even with her buffs, Mel's support is still struggling to find any sort of success in solo queue, so we'll continue to rate her in the C tier for 26.5. The support meta is actually in a pretty balanced spot right now, with a good variety of melee supports, enchanters, and mages that you can play to great success. Braum started off the year as the most OP melee support, but he's now in around the same level as others like Leona, Thresh, and Maokai. Although Nami and Sona are a cut above, enchanters like Janna, Soraka, Emilio, and Seraphine are all really good S tier options right now. And then in terms of mages, Vel'Koz, Zyra, and Brand are all performing incredibly well. It's really only Xerath who's finding less success in Season 16. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So that's going to be all for the 26.5 mid-patch tier list update. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.